started putting the oil cooler in today. So I got the kit from Doug Rippey Motorsports. Got it on sale about 10% off of their Black Friday sale. This is going to resolve the high oil temperatures I've been experiencing on the track. So it arrived last week. I've got a nice set rab radiator here for the oil, these nice fittings to reach back to the oil pan, a new gasket for when we put this new piece on the side here, and you can see the little hole there for the temperature setting unit, so you can plug that back in when we're done, so you can still get your oil temps. So basically, I just got to drain the oil, get all of that out of there, and remove the filter, remove the side piece that's on there now, replace it with this, connect the fittings, and then mount this to the bracket that comes along with it, and then just run the lines as indicated in the instructions. Let's talk about these instructions a little bit. You know, maybe this device is meant for a audience that knows a bit more about cars than I do. I feel like I know my way around all right, but definitely advanced engineering's not on me. But the instructions they give you is simply a series of pictures that kind of show you where it goes, show you how to fit things on, but doesn't really answer a lot of questions and doesn't really give you the in-depth knowledge to pick one option over another when you're installing this thing, which is a little bit disappointing. So I actually searched, and there's no video really on this either about how to get this stuff in here. So a couple questions I had right off the bat were, should I pre-fill the radiator with oil? Should I fill the lines with oil? When we have these attachments that go onto somewhere, where do they go? And I found out they go onto the radiator. Which side should go in, the side with the O-ring or the tapered side? So it is the side with the O-ring goes into the radiator. My other question was, should I put on thread tape? I noticed that the adapter that goes onto the side of the oil block has thread tape on it. I figured that was for the plastic to metal connection, makes sense. But do these require thread tape? I called up Doug Rippey Motorsports. They say no thread tape. Pre-fill the radiator is probably a good idea to help build oil pressure. And the lines do not need to be pre-filled. They also suggested that I pull the spark plugs and start the car up and turn it over until I can build up oil pressure and get oil in all these lines. These are all really good things that I wish were in this set of photographs. So luckily, we're making a video today on this, so now you know all those things that I didn't know before putting this kit in. Okay, let's get back to it. So kind of the first thing we've done here is take off the air dam out of the front, and then the two pieces, the all 10 millimeter off the front of the car. Pretty simple stuff. And then we've started drilling. What I've done is they want you to set this up kind of centered. You see those two bolt holes down here, centered in between those two. It's pretty centered. What I did is I put this on here, clamped it down, put a level on top, and then I used a center punch to kind of mark out where I want to drill. I've got my pilot hole for the center one kind of done. So what we're going to do now is basically finish drilling up these holes and get this thing mounted in here, and then we'll do a test fit. Now please note that this is actually not where it gets installed. It actually goes on the back side of this bar, of this cross member here. However, you cannot get a drill back there to start from that side. So basically what it does is just take it, put it on this side after removing those bits, and then drill it from this side, and then we'll mount it up. So yeah, keep that in mind. It does not actually mount here. It goes on the reverse side of this, but we have to drill our holes from this side. So I figured taking all that off and put it on here with a clamp, and drilling from this side would be the best option. Anyway, we'll be back after we get these holes drilled. We'll take a look and see what it looks like. So this is basically what you should be left with after you're done. Got everything kind of centered up down here. Here we go. You see the mounting brackets on there. Tighten those up pretty good. Don't tighten them too much. I've just found out the hard way that it will dimple the metal here. The bolts are going to be stronger than the steel on the outside, so I deformed this slightly. I'm going to have to probably back that one off a little bit, but dimpled up these a little bit as well. So don't go too tight. Just get them nice and snug. Okay, so next steps now are to go ahead and get this thing mounted up top here and run the lines around the driver's side back to the oil pan. So we'll go ahead and get started on that. Also need to drain the oil. Haven't done that yet, so we'll get started on that and be right back. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pre-fill the radiator a little bit. They said on the phone it would take about a quart and a half. I'm just going to put a quart in. Got a little funnel. This thing it won't stand up on its own very well, so there's a big risk of it falling over and leaking, which would be bad. So what I've done, I just put it between a couple oil bottles. I'm going to try and fill it up with a tiny funnel here, and then I'm going to actually put this cap back in until I'm ready to get everything installed. I'll actually install the lines on this end and then route them to where they need to go, so I don't put any pressure on the oil pan end. And then yeah, we'll get started there. So we'll go ahead and get this start to be filled up using my Mobile One 5W30. See about getting some of this in here. All right, here we go. So after taking a peek at the clearance inside the radiator area, I think it's probably a good idea to go ahead and get these fittings on, and then also attach the lines now, even though there's a kind of a small chance of it leaking out of the lines. I just think that getting these on now will probably be easier with it out of the car than in the car. So we'll go ahead and do that now. I'll go ahead and get these plugs out that I had in. Also, despite the guy saying I took a quart and a half of oil, it starts to fill up pretty good at less than a quart. Just a heads up on that. Let me grab these fittings. I checked the part number on these fittings. They're identical, so it doesn't matter which one goes where. Another thing, the directions could be more clear. I don't like it when there are options of what you could do. So we'll go ahead and get these in. O-ring, short side to the radiator. Go ahead and get these guys started. And no thread tape. And they said hand tight and snug it. So that's hand tight. And we'll just give it like a little quarter turn with the adjustable here. Let's see here. Okay. And that feels pretty snug. Yeah. Okay. Snugged up. So that's on there. And we'll go ahead and do the other side. Okay. And get the fitting out. Okay, let's go ahead and snug this up. Okay. Just make sure we get a firm stop on these. Fittings are in, and then the next step here is decide which side is going to be the passenger side on this, because whichever side is on the passenger side will need the longer hose, which in my case is AQ DRM line 1. Again, another thing that would have been nice in the instructions, I mean, it's obvious that hose has a longer route to go, but you know, I've done dumber things, and just kind of having that step-by-step instruction typically prevents me from doing anything stupid. All right, so we'll go ahead and get these guys on here. And I think I want this side to be the passenger side, so we'll go ahead and get this on here. Now we're going to have to be super careful not to let this tip over or anything while we're getting this situated. But go ahead and give it a shot here. Side. Okay, those are nice and snug. I'm just going to give them a slight tighten. Probably can't see right now, but that's all right. Okay. Okay. All right, we have our lines on, and unfortunately the way I've got it right now is they're kind of pointed the wrong way, but I'll swap those over, get those in the car, and then we'll go ahead and do the initial routing of the lines, and then we'll be right back. I just thought of is to take those little baggies that the radiator attachment hose fittings came in, and just plop them right over the ends of the tube as you route this. Definitely don't want any foreign matter, foreign debris in there. Just figured I'm going to be scraping these along the ground, moving them through the engine bay, around the car, and I don't want any dirt or debris getting in there, so I went ahead and just put the little bags over top of them so we can prevent anything like that happening. Okay, let's get to the initial install and routing of the lines. Okay, so we've got it initially in place here. I've got the lines run. It's a little tricky getting in here, but I'm very happy that I went ahead and put the nozzles on, or the lines on now. As you can see, there's not a lot of clearance up there unless you want to go ahead and take off the shroud for the radiator. So getting these in here and then routing it this way seems to have worked out pretty well. So what I'm going to do is, with an 11 millimeter wrench and socket, we're going to go ahead and put the bolts through the bottom here. Bolt head goes from the bottom up, and you tighten the nut on top. This helps give you more clearance for the air dam when you reinstall that. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing mounted into place, and I'll be back with the finished product. I went ahead and got the housing for the oil temp sensor out of there. I went ahead and cracked it. It's a 19 millimeter socket, piece of cake. Put it in the vise, got it right off. Go ahead and spin it out now. This is the new one that comes along with it, and as you can see, there's two bolts that come out. They are 10 millimeter. I believe the torque spec on those is 106 inch-pounds. So keep that in mind, inch-pounds, 106 inch-pounds. Let's double check that real quick just to be on the safe side. Look at our handy sheet here. See what it has to say. Here we go. Yes, 106 inch-pounds to get those out. The torque spec for the actual sensor itself is 15 foot-pounds. So we'll put it back in the vise. I'll move it over, and we'll go ahead and see about getting that back in. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move the sensor over to the new adapter. This is the old gasket. They gave us a new one that has two holes, or two ports for the two ports that are on the back of this. We'll come back to that in just a second. I am going to, before putting this on the engine block or oil pan, I am going to actually attach the lines to it first, then put the gasket on, and then slide this over top and then screw it in. I think that's going to be the easiest way to do it, but we'll see. So we'll be back. Another snag. Told you 19 millimeter deep well socket to get this thing on and off. Well, the way this is made, this will not get on there. There's just not enough clearance between the side of the sensor and the block of the adapter. Not gonna be able to do it. So what I'm gonna do is hand tighten it, which I've already done, and then take an adjustable to it and crank it over, maybe half turn, something along those lines. Just make sure it's good and tight on there, and then we'll go with that. So almost there. Got this thing transferred over. About ready to take this back onto the car and get things hooked up. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the finished product. I have the radiator mounted here in the front of the car in this bracket they give you. I've got the hoses attached up top. Haven't seen any leaks. Started the car a few times, ran it. Got the oil pressure up. Just making sure everything's shipshape here. Yeah, so that's installed, and then kind of moving backwards through the car. Here's the lines coming through off the side of the radiator over this metal tube here. I'm going to go ahead and zip tie some of this to get it up a little bit higher and kind of out of the way so it doesn't rub. Might have to put some foam in some areas to keep it from rubbing. But then we kind of moving up, comes through here above the subframe. Here moving along the side, and then through here across this subframe piece as well. Now gunning through here was a super pain in the ass. You can't really see it, but getting both of those through there right next to that engine mount. There's another wiring harness that runs through here as well. I went underneath it. It was a bear getting this through here. Just take some time, and I'll tell you at the end here in just a second what I recommend for this. But yeah, just want to keep an eye on that. I also don't like that metal on metal bit there. I may put some tape there or something along those lines to keep that from rubbing on that edge. Then moving back to the oil pan, you can see all our connectors up here are set up. You can see all the marks on the side of that on the side of that fitting there where I've been struggling to tighten it. So yeah, that's kind of what the whole installation looks like. I did move that grounding strip or strap off to the side there to keep it from touching. By loosening that bolt, just move it around. Getting the oil sensor plug-in is a bit of a bear as well, just because of that tight clearance, but it can be done once it's installed. So, you know, overall, what I would recommend is starting from this end instead of the radiator end like I did. That was kind of some laziness on my part, not wanting to remove the radiator shroud out of the car to get to the top of the radiator. But, you know, looking back, I think going from this end forward is probably the best way to do it. Just so you can get these tubes, these lines the way you want them up here, instead of having to finagle it and pull on the hoses to get them in the position that you want. So I'd recommend starting from this end and moving forward rather than the forward back like I did. It means you have to take the radiator shroud off, like I said, but it's way better than what I've had to struggle with to get this to be attached on this end. Also, I think getting them through this gap right here by the subframe will be a lot easier going from the back forward than the forward back. So yeah, this the whole complete installation. Everything seems to be working pretty properly. If you're going to mount the adapter and then mount the hoses to the adapter, which is kind of what you have to do if you go from the front back, I would recommend getting a crow's foot. I think it's 1 1/16 of an inch on the red adapter up there to get that across. A crowfoot wrench would work. Really short, adjustable, although I couldn't find an adjustable short enough that had the gap necessary to get around that fitting. But yeah, it's super tight there unless you want to drop the exhaust, which I also did not want to do. It's a bit of a pain to get this situated. But here we are. We've got it on there. Everything seems to be working properly. Just note the routing that we've done here. And also note that you'll probably want to get some foam tape, something to keep this off of any potential rubbing points. And I'm probably going to put a few zip ties in here as well to get this kind of where I want it. Anyway, yeah, that is the Doug Rippey Motorsports Standalone Race Oil Cooler. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it was educational. I'm sure it was. If you got the same instructions I did, this is going to be rather helpful for you to get this in here the right way. All right, thanks for tuning in to Christ Support Racing, and we'll catch you next time.